Hi, I'm Ted Granger, Manager of Corporate Safety for Florida Power and Light Company. I would like to talk to you about an issue of greatest importance to all of us, safety. FPL has adopted a corporate strategy for safety titled Safety 2000, working towards a safer future. We are committed to the safety of all workers on FPL property as well as members of the public. We recognize the effect that a work-related injury could have on an individual and their families, and therefore are striving to obtain an injury-free workplace. Our requirements of any contractor at FPL is to have developed and implemented a safety program which at a minimum complies with all federal, state, and local safety requirements. This, of course, includes the Occupational Safety and Health Act requirements, commonly referred to as OSHA. In addition, you must comply with any applicable FPL safety requirements. This applies to all work performed and to all equipment supplied or brought onto FPL premises. FPL expects all contractors to ensure that safe work practices are adhered to by their workers, their subcontractors, and other personnel supplied by the contractor. As a contractor, your responsibility to your employees are well defined by the OSHA General Duty Clause. No contractor or subcontractor shall require employees to work in surroundings or under working conditions that are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to their health or safety. In addition, your responsibilities to FPL are spelled out in your purchase order contract. You must have a designated individual who is responsible for administrating your safety program. You must immediately report all injuries to FPL. FPL may require a contractor to remove from the worksite any personnel or subcontractors who fail to follow safety rules and regulations. Our commitment to safety is highlighted in your contract, which states FPL may terminate in whole or any part of the contract for services if the contractor fails to perform any of their obligations for safety and health. While every substation is unique, this video gives an overview of the hazards present in substations. Prior to any contractor or subcontractor entering the substation unescorted, they must view this video, perform a walkthrough of the substation with a competent person, and demonstrate an understanding of the training by satisfactorily completing a written test. I encourage all contractors and subcontractors to recognize the need and benefits of these requirements. Substations are unique environments, and personnel must be aware of the potential hazards that exist. I encourage you to ask questions during this substation safety orientation training. If you are unsure of what is energized or how close you can approach an area in the substation, please ask. I thank you for your commitment to safety and your recognition that we must all be working towards a safer future.
Substations can be dangerous places to the uninformed visitor or worker. Voltage in FPL substations can range from 120 to 500,000 volts, and any electrical contact can cause serious injury or death. So if you will be entering FPL substations, you must have basic safety information training. This training applies to both electrical and non-electrical contractors such as janitors, plumbers, roofers, and weed control workers. The video, along with a walkthrough of a substation, will point out the hazards that exist in a substation and what precautions must be taken to protect you from those hazards. In addition to FPL guidelines, all contract employees and their employers must comply with the federal, state, and local laws and regulations, including the Occupational Safety and Health Act, commonly referred to as OSHA. There are 4 things that must be done before any contract employee can be issued an FPL standard key for unescorted entry into a substation. First, the employee must view and understand this video. Second, the employee must perform a substation walkthrough with a qualified person. This can be a management person from the contractor's employer who has already received qualification training. Third, the employee must demonstrate to the person leading the walkthrough that they understand the information being taught. This demonstration consists of at least a written test and should include answering verbal questions during the walkthrough. And fourth, this training needs to be documented and kept on file by the employer who conducts the training. Proper clothing and personal protective equipment, referred to as PPE, must be worn to enter a substation. Additional PPE may be required by your employer, depending on the hazards your work may expose you to. OSHA requires each employer to perform a hazard assessment of their employee's workplace and to determine what PPE is required based on the assessments. At the minimum, anyone entering a substation must wear long pants, a shirt with sleeves, leather work shoes with a heavy sole, and a hard hat, ANSI Z89.1 Class B if they are entering the substation yard. Additional PPE, such as safety glasses with side shields, steel or composite-toed boots, work gloves, or chemical-resistant gloves may be required by your employer to protect against the specific hazards involved with your work. FPL has many different substation sizes. While the newer stations may look less congested, the same general hazards exist in any substation. Always use caution in a substation. The building in a substation is called the relay vault or control house. You will occasionally hear terms such as distribution station, transmission station, 138 yard, or 230 yard. These refer to the voltage levels present in the substation. When arriving at a substation, do not drive your vehicle near station equipment or conductors unless you are an electrical contractor who is trained to work in substations. Prior to pulling any vehicle into a substation, consider the overall height of your vehicle. Inspect drive aisles, which are the intended roadways within the station, and observe any low clearance areas. You should never drive a vehicle with a whip or long antenna into a substation. Any large vehicle could contact energized conductors if it is driven out of the intended drive aisles. If you are not sure of where it is safe to drive, park your vehicle outside of the substation and ask your supervisor for assistance. When you enter a substation, the station gate and any building doors that are not inside the station fence must either be kept locked or be manned at all times. If other personnel are working in the station, notify them when you arrive and leave. Inform them who you are and what work you will be doing. You should also ask them about any existing conditions in the substation that might impact your work. You should be informed of any site-specific hazards by local FPL personnel when your initial work assignment is made. If a crew is not at the site, call the appropriate dispatcher when you arrive and leave. The dispatcher's phone numbers will be posted on the phone board in the relay vault. Additional guidelines exist for entering a station where herbicides have recently been sprayed. Herbicide spraying is prohibited when other personnel are present in the substation. A copy of this safety bulletin, Use of Herbicides in Substations, should be given to all contractors at their initial job award. All contract personnel need to be aware of the possible hazards due to exposure to herbicides and take the precautions outlined in the safety bulletin. Now that you have safely entered the substation, let's look at the potential hazards inside the substation building, commonly referred to as a relay vault or control house. Some of our relay vaults have a security system installed and can only be entered by using a security card and a key. Only attempt to enter a building with a security system after coordinating the entry with FPL personnel. Remember to close and lock the relay vault door if it is located outside the station fence, unless it will be constantly manned. The building typically houses the control circuits for the equipment in the substation yard. The controls are mounted on relay panels, which usually have red, green, and possibly blue lights on them, along with pistol grip handles. Inadvertently bumping one of the panels or pistol grips could cause a power outage, so you do not want to touch a panel unless you have specific work to perform on it. The backs of the panels have low voltage exposed circuits of 120 and 240 volts. Bumping up against the rear of a relay panel could result in a power outage and/or a shock to yourself. The substation batteries have exposed terminals similar to a car battery. Do not touch the batteries or lay any items on top of them. The relay vaults are no smoking areas, and it is especially important to keep any open flames or arcs away from the batteries. Other electrical equipment is typically mounted on the walls. These cabinets should not be opened unless you have specific work to perform in them. Now let's look at the typical hazards in a substation yard. If your work will involve climbing onto the roof of a relay vault, inform the substation representative prior to going to the substation. Inspect the area for any overhead lines or bus work that passes over or is connected to the roof. If this situation exists, do not put your ladder up and do not climb onto the roof until a substation representative is on site to assist you. Many stations have concrete trenches called trenways running from the relay vault into the yard. The concrete lids are designed to walk on but should not be driven on. If they are driven on, they can crack and become hazardous for walking. Therefore, it is a good practice to walk on the outer edges of these lids rather than in the center. Drive aisles where vehicles can be driven over the trenway are marked and have a metal grate or other heavy-duty cover for driving on. As you walk into the equipment area, stay in the equipment aisle when possible. Do not raise any equipment or tools above your head. Be aware of any low-hanging buswork or wires. Even if you are working outside of the station fence, there are high-voltage lines both in the air and below ground. If you come in contact with them, you could be seriously injured or killed. Unless you are trained to work on the electrical facilities and to determine voltage levels present, do not climb a ladder, steel structures, or use an aerial device in the equipment area without notifying the FPL substation representative. It is normal to feel static and to receive small static shocks in our 500 kV stations, and sometimes the 230 kV stations. Use care walking and watch where you step, as there are steel structures, conduits, equipment, and concrete pads throughout the station. A circuit breaker or switch may operate at any time by remote control because of a fault on the circuit. This is normal, but can startle someone who is not expecting it. If substation personnel are performing switching, you may hear loud arcing sounds or a loud pop similar to a rifle shot. In some stations, there are fences within the main station fence. These enclose low-profile equipment. You must not enter these inner fences until the equipment inside the fence is de-energized and grounded by qualified personnel. While in the station, if you notice unusual noises or loud, continuous arcing noise, contact the dispatcher and explain the situation to him. If you damage a cable while digging or doing other work, or bump a piece of equipment and hear equipment operate, contact the dispatcher. He will send assistance as appropriate. If a serious injury occurs within a substation, call the dispatcher at the number posted at the phone board on the orange poster. When leaving a substation, you must inform any FPL personnel on site that you are leaving. If no FPL personnel are on site, you must call the appropriate dispatcher and let him know you are leaving. If no FPL personnel are present, make sure all the building doors and station gates are closed and locked. In addition to viewing this video, you must be walked through a substation by a competent person who can point out the hazards to you. Remember, you can be seriously injured or killed if you approach an energized facility too closely or bring an uninsulated object too near. You do not have to make contact with the energized device because at higher voltages, electricity can arc. Always think safety so that you go home in the same condition you were in at the start of the day.